teacher development. And I am pleased and honored to chair this session. I am Dr. Ali Al-Kabi. I am from UAE University, and I am honored here in this session with 4 experts on the teachers. From my left side, I have Dr. Daniel Kirk. He is the program chair at the Research Center of Excellence in United Arab Emirates, in Emirates College, and also Dr. Ahmed Al-Sarir is Professor of Education in University of Sharjah. And then our colleague Dr. Ali Ibrahim, he is Professor of Education at UAE University. And Dr. Natasha Ridge, she is Executive Director at Sheikh Saud bin Saka Al-Qasimi Foundation for Policy Research, and she will be replaced by Ms. Suha. We will start with the first paper, which will be delivered by Dr. Daniel Kirk, and it's called The State of Current Research on Teacher Development. Dr. Daniel Kirk is an associate professor at the Emirates College for Advanced Education, and he leads the division of leadership. And previous to that, he was working at the education policy at Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research. He also taught at the American University of Sharjah, Bahrain Teacher College, and the Macon State College, and also he taught education program at the University of Georgia, and he taught also secondary English and literature in the UK, Bermuda, and Qatar. As I said earlier, his presentation will be about the state of current research on teacher development.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I'd firstly like to thank His Excellency Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Sawaidi and the entire ECSSR team for convening this conference and for inviting me to present. As a former employee in the research department, it's also good to see my former boss, Mr. Jassim, who has obviously not got fed up of listening to me speak while I worked for him. I've been attending these events since they began 5 years ago. They've got better in scope and range, and they always attract a wide range of leaders, policymakers and educators. And so thank you for attending what I think is an important event. I've been invited to talk a little about the state of current research in teacher education and development, and I want to specifically focus in on what we actually mean when we talk about developing teachers and some of the issues raised by this notion. My colleagues to my right here who will present in this panel will be giving much more breadth and depth to the whole idea of the teaching profession and many of the factors that we need to consider as we look at how best to prepare teachers for the demanding yet vitally important role of teaching our youth. So, I'm going to try in the limited time available to cover the main areas that I feel are pertinent to this discussion. Please do bear in mind that I am a former teacher and now an education professor, and it is my job and I'm paid to talk. So I will try and fit this into the time that we have available. I'll be giving an overview of some of the current discourse surrounding teacher development and how this may be understood in terms of the role teachers have in our society. Drawing upon a wide array of current and recent research, along with an historical understanding of the development of the teaching profession, I hope to offer some insight that will act as a precursor to the following discussions and presentations from my colleagues. So we had a bit of a problem, and the problem is the term teacher. Before we can even begin to explore how teacher development is informed by and informs current research in the field of teacher development and education, we need to understand that we do not all agree on what we mean when we're talking about a teacher. There are competing and contested terms and definitions used to describe the role, work and position of a nation's teachers. Some of these are culturally specific and constructed, and others relate to localised functional issues or the status and privileging of education in a particular context or society. Up here on the slide, I've pulled out some of the main ideas I think that we have when we're talking about the idea of teacher, and some of the contested terms and some of the differences that we need to understand, because we're not all talking about the same thing when we're talking about teachers. So let's take as an example from the slide the naming of different routes into the teaching profession. In countries that have formal teacher preparation programs, the naming of such programs speaks volumes about the perceived role and status of teachers within that society. Take these two differing terms for the same thing: teacher education and teacher training. Teacher education implies, I would argue, that teachers undergo a formal liberal arts model of education through which they explore educational issues and teaching in breadth and scope, leading to the awarding of a credential allowing access into this thing we call the teaching profession. Teacher training, on the other hand, to me implies that teaching is a set of skills and competencies that can be imparted upon an individual, often in the same way as a vocational training program can teach the skills of, for example, plumbing, resulting in the individual demonstrating mastery of a defined and routine set of skills, being able to apply these in a real-world setting. Depending on the society or the context in which teachers function, this naming of just the routes into teaching is a key aspect in how a society holds its teachers in the public consciousness. And this is just one example of the differences we face, and one that can be discussed ad nauseum. But now, have a closer look at this slide for further examples. The point I want to raise here, and we'll delve further into, time permitting, is that we often talk about teachers and developing skilled and highly qualified teachers. But often those in the discussion are actually coming at it from very different perceptions and understanding as to what a teacher is and what a teacher does. I would argue and maybe contest that as we're moving through the discussions today and the discussions that we had yesterday in this very conference, our understandings of teachers just within our audience is very different, and we need to understand those differences to be able to move forward when we think about the role of teachers and developing them. So let me move on quickly to teacher preparation. And I think there are competing paradigms here, and this is something that in the current research and current literature is very, very heavily debated at the moment. So if we now turn our attention to how a nation or jurisdiction provides teachers for its public schools, and this is a fundamental first step in understanding teacher development and improvement, as teacher preparation is the initial rung on the ladder to developing and improving teacher performance. In the present education policy environment, improving the quality of instruction and teaching effectiveness has become a high priority in most countries. The move towards standards-based educational improvement requires teachers to have comprehensive knowledge in their areas of specialisation and the pedagogy that best matches with their teaching, with the teaching of their particular subjects. Both the traditional and non-traditional routes into teaching claim to offer these elements, yet they have very different paths to trying to achieve this. In this slide, I've tried to make a distinction between the two competing forms of teacher preparation, traditional and non-traditional. Both of these routes offer ways to enter the teaching profession, and the debate around the merits and problems with each is currently dividing many in the education field. We cannot argue that there is a crisis in teacher preparation and the staffing of our nation's schools, and it's increasingly difficult to staff our schools as teaching is seen as a less attractive career by many university graduates. Just from personal experience at the institution where I work, it is incredibly difficult to get males into our teacher education programs, and also difficult when we graduate, all of our graduates, to have them move into real-world classroom settings. Non-traditional routes into teaching offer a shortcut to the classroom and is attractive from a policy and political angle. Yet questions are raised regarding quality, longevity of service, and the system of incentives that are often used to attract high-quality graduates into the field. Traditional programs come under fire for being too costly, lengthy, and not producing enough teachers of quality, yet the university route is still seen by many as the only option for staffing our schools. When it comes to teacher development and the research surrounding these two different gateways into teaching, it is difficult to find any real consensus in the literature, as the variables are too many. It is the age-old problem of often comparing apples with oranges. If for now at least, in this room, bear me the indulgence of at least agreeing in principle to the fact that most developed nations have formal teacher preparation programs. Therefore, we need to interrogate the purpose of such routes into teaching. As this slide states, development begins with attracting high-quality candidates into the teaching profession. The research literature is pretty clear and unanimous on this. The better prepared the teacher, the higher the quality of teaching, and, therefore, student attainment and achievement is greater under such teachers. This makes sense, right? And I would argue, as those who have studied and explored issues of pedagogy, along with any subject-specific knowledge relevant to their content, would make more effective teachers than those without such formal preparation. But it's at this point that we must turn to education policy and the arguments surrounding teaching as a profession, and how the governance of national education systems drives teacher recruitment, retention and development. Policy imperatives to raise quality, accelerate student learning and engage teachers in continuous professional development, often pointing to the research literature regarding the benefits of evidence-based practice as a means to increase student outcomes, is a high policy imperative in most developed countries. The research is pretty clear. Teachers who are continually learning, reflecting on their practice and collaborating with peers are generally more successful when measured by student attainment. Where the problem lies, however, is when professional development opportunities are merely mandated, often not specific or targeted to the issues faced in any one place, and when professional development becomes an extra task or burden for teachers rather than a truly organic part of their professional practice. In an effective professional learning system, teachers learn from each other, outside experts, and highly skilled peers. The continual deepening of knowledge, skills, practice and application should be, I would argue, an integral part of a teacher's work, and not something that is often the case just tagged on to the end of a working day and that does not complement any authentic teaching process. Research plays a key role in thinking and policy formation, and this is true in the field of teacher development. For example, recent research into national salary scales for teachers highlights that although higher salaries would be welcome, raising salaries would do little to stop the high rates of teacher attrition that affect many countries, as a result that is often contrary to the perceived view of teachers' reasons for leaving the profession. However, there are still gaps in the research on foundational aspects of a teacher's work, such as research on the kinds, type or amount of subject matter preparation received in relation to pedagogical effectiveness and student achievement. A growing body of research literature has attempted to explore the connection between research and practice, one informing and being informed by the other. Yet these studies often tend to generalise to the extent that it is difficult to extrapolate the pertinent issues for real-world application, or they are focused case study approaches that often have little use beyond their immediate context. So drawing to a close here, what sort of opportunities and challenges do we have? Well, as with all changes and developments in education, teacher preparation and development must grasp the opportunities and do its best to fend off challenges if it's to be sustainable and worthwhile. There are many opportunities for the furthering and betterment of teacher development, and I've included a small selection of some that I feel are most pressing on this slide. There's an increasing awareness globally of the part innovative educational practices can play in developing the teaching and learning process, and this feeds into the aspirational discourse surrounding the development of knowledge-based societies. Here, I feel, is a great opportunity to tap into the socio-economic wants of a nation, bringing education to the fore in achieving these lofty ambitions. This, alongside an ever-growing research literature focusing on teacher development, often being driven by the very institutions and organisations that support and employ teachers, means that there is a critical mass movement snowballing onward that presents immense opportunities. Yet there are also challenges, some of which are listed here. We still struggle to get good teachers to stay in the profession. Teacher attrition is a global curse, and there are very few simple solutions, with the reasons behind teachers leaving the profession multiple and complex. Shifting and competing political agendas and leadership, particularly in terms of state-employed teachers, often creates uncertainty, change, and a sense of short-termism, which is not conducive to developing a sustained and high-quality educational system. This often leads to a lack of buy-in by teachers, meaning that any development and reform efforts are possibly met with little enthusiasm by those they are aimed at. You must forgive me, I forgot to bring my crystal ball with me today, but I can't really look into the future and see how these developments are all going to play out. But what I would like to do is maybe offer some professional insights into where I believe a focus should fall as we continue to prepare and develop teachers to serve our children's schools. The teaching profession should continue to reflect, self-evaluate, and draw upon the experience within its own ranks and that of others to get better at what they do. Teaching well is hard work. Those of you who are teachers in the audience know that. And it requires great effort. Understanding this and working towards improvement will benefit everybody in the education field. Teacher preparation and development needs to continue to move outside of the realms of higher education and become situated within the schools and classrooms where it matters. This is happening, but there is still a tendency to bring in the professor or the consultant to impart their wisdom. There is a role for these actors, but a greater degree of collaboration and partnering needs to occur, allowing for authentic development of real-world issues. Innovation and risk-taking have often been overlooked in education and in teacher preparation in particular. Student teachers in formal preparation programs are prepared in ways very similar to those a generation or two ago. These very preparation programs are where innovation, risk-taking and experimentation should be taking place, allowing for application in actual schools with a system of reflection and development created to learn from the process. So I hope I've managed to offer at least a broad and maybe relatively simple overview of some of the key issues I feel surrounding teacher development and how rigorous research can help educators improve this practice and how practice can drive the research agenda over the coming decades. Thank you. Shukran.
I would like to thank Dr. Daniel Kirk for sticking to the time allotted to him and for his presentation on the state of research on teacher development. And I also like to thank you, the audience, for keeping your phones on silent status, because till now we only heard the 2 phones ringing. So this was conducive to better listening to the speech. So please keep it that way. The next speech is called Socioeconomic Constraints of Emirates Disinclination Towards the Teaching Profession, a field study of public secondary schools in Sharjah. It will be delivered by Dr. Ahmed Hussein Al-Saghir. He is Associate Professor of Education at the College of Art in the University of Sharjah. He holds a Bachelor in Science in Education and a Special Diploma in Education and a Master in Education from Asyut University. He had his PhD in Philosophy in Education from Pittsburgh University in collaboration with South Valley University in Egypt. He taught at the Department of Education Foundation at Suhaj College of Education, then Assistant Professor at the Department of Education at UAE University, then Associate Professor at the University at the College of Art, Humanities and Social Science at the University of Sharjah. And he was also head of the department at the University of Sharjah. So the title of his presentation is Socioeconomic Constraints Related to Disinclination Toward the Teaching Profession. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, peace be upon you. First of all, allow me to thank the organizers and to thank Emirates Center for Research and Studies for inviting me at this conference. And I will be presenting a paper on socioeconomic constraints of disinclination towards the teaching profession. The teaching profession is one of the most valuable positions in societies. It is, as we can call it, the mother of all other professions, because all other professions can only happen thanks to the teacher. And this is the teaching is one of the most important processes of all, and it is about investing in human resources with the highest income. Teaching is making future. It means making huge benefits for the nation. The teacher is the cornerstone of the education process, and it is upon him that lies the responsibility of building the future generation. The teaching profession has become like other profession in medicine and pharmacy. It has become a profession with its criteria, and it has and undergone lots of changes that had affected all aspects of social, economic, and cultural aspects. And teaching is no longer a profession that anybody can integrate. It has become a profession that has its own keys, its own criteria, that only those who are highly qualified can join and who have received a good education. Education has now organizations that set its criteria, regulations, and gives accreditation for the teaching position. And we are witnessing lots of training program for teachers and for preparing highly qualified teachers who can undertake their responsibilities and roles. And United Arab Emirates is making huge efforts in developing and supporting teaching at all levels. This is what we see through the budgets allotted to teaching every year, and for all the citizens in public schools. And the Ministry of Education in the UAE follows the latest trends in education and it learns from the experience of other countries in the world in a way that would give the best outputs in education, and it would help to lead the development in the UAE. With all these efforts to improve education in the UAE, still joining the profession of teachers in the UAE is still low, especially among male students. Local students still refrain from joining education program that would lead them to become teachers. And also there is a problem of retaining the teachers. This is why education in the UAE relies, I'm talking about public education, it relies hugely on expatriates. And when we talk about the expatriate teacher, and we talk at the same time of Emiratization of the teaching, this does not mean that we do not value the role of the expatriate teachers. We do value their work, and we praise their experience and their efforts in developing the education in the UAE, and we know that they undergo lots of pressure when they do their work in the UAE, as it happens in anywhere in the world. But Emiratization of education is one of the strategic goals in the UAE, and all efforts should come together, either for males or for females. We should set up plans that would encourage locals to join teaching position, and we should make efforts also to retain the teachers and make sure they do not go and look for other positions whenever it's possible. This was an introduction before moving to the research. I tried to find some statistics since 2010, in the period between 2010 to 2014, which would give me a focus or analysis of the status of teachers, local teachers in the public schools at all levels, starting from kindergarten, level 1 and level 2, and high school and Islamic studies, all levels of public schools. And I would like to thank Ms. Fawzia Raib, who made it possible for me to obtain these statistics. If with all these efforts made by United Arab Emirates at all levels, by by the means of imamatizations. We know lots of female teachers from the UAE are joining the profession. We still see that official statistics, the number of female teachers in public schools has reached 10,685 out of 14,956 for 2010-2011, which means that female teachers constitute 71% from the total of teachers in the UAE, female teachers in the UAE. I'm moving from 2010 to 2014. In 2014, the number of female teachers, local female teachers, reached 10,580. This means that the number of local female teachers dropped by almost 65%. So if we are going to talk about, it's not only about male teachers, but it's also affecting female teachers. Regarding the statistics related to male teachers, I have some statistics so it would be clear for you. In 2010, 2011 and 2012, we can see in 2010 the total of male teachers, local teachers, we had 710. The percentage of male teachers is almost 11%. In 2011-2012, we have 729 teachers. The total has a little bit decreased. It has become 10.8%. In 2013, 2012-2013, the number of male teachers was 815 from a total 7,900. So it was almost 11%. In 2014, the number of male teachers was 745. The percentage has a little bit decreased 11.27%. So if we look from 2010 to 2014, the last 4 years, we will find that the percentage of male teachers in the UAE at the levels of public schools is 11% and for expatriate is 9%. This presents a real problem, which is the disinclination toward the teaching position. This is still an ongoing study, and I am just showing a theoretical part of the study. The phenomenon of disinclination toward teaching position does exist and needs further studies and needs strategies, but I have been trying to show you that this is not something limited to United Arab Emirates. This is a global phenomenon, and there is a study by the Arab Organization of Education and Culture, and there was a study by that organization that showed that 70% of the individuals who were questioned said that they are not interested in joining an institute or or college to become teachers, while 30% answered by yes. 81% of the males answered that they do not think about joining university to become teachers, while 19% said yes. Females, 58% of the female said they are not interested in joining a college to become teachers, while 42% said yes. 72% from those who are below 18 years old said they do not think about joining college or of education to become teachers, while 28% said yes. 69% from those below 18 years said they do not think about joining college of education to become teachers, while 31% said yes. 69% of the best graduate said they do not think about joining college of education to become teachers, while 31% said yes. So the main reasons about the lack of desire and willingness and the lack of love for the profession of teacher, and also because of the low income and the view of society toward the profession of teacher, and the humiliated image of the teachers as perceived in the media. The questions of our research, the question that we posed, what are the obstacles, what are the socio-economical constraints that lead to disinclination of males to the profession of teachers? Are there any discrepancies regarding the students and the teachers? Are there any discrepancies related to the locals from joining the profession? The goals or the objectives of the research, first, to identify the socio-economic constraints that lead the local males to join the profession of teachers. Second, to identify the socio-economic constraints that lead the local males to not to stay in the profession of teachers. The importance of the current study is that teaching is the question of disinclination of males from becoming teachers, and also the problem of retaining current teachers. And there must be a decision at the top level, at the Ministry of Education, to take appropriate measures to tackle this problem. The limits of this research is about identifying socio-economical factors that lead to citizens and not joining the profession of teachers. And in theory aspects, I try to look at the different factors, social factors, those factors that are stumbling block for the profession of teachers, and I try to categorize those obstacles. And I found out from the research and studies that social obstacles are, first, the profession of teaching does not have the value that other professions have, the future of the teacher. Secondly, the profession of teacher in society is limited compared to other professions, and of course, some of these studies were conducted in United Arab Emirates, and some were conducted in other Arab countries or in other countries of the world. Third, the image, the humiliated image of the pictures as viewed in the media. Fourth, families do not encourage their children to join the profession of teacher. 5, negligence by the teachers and lack of interest in the profession. 6, the society looks at the profession of teacher as a profession of teachers only. 7, those who those who work in the teaching position deal with lots of difficulties, like dealing with the difficult children and their parents. Regarding the economical obstacles, I have found first, low income, low salaries compared to other professions. Second, lack of good pension system, good and fair pension system. Three, promotion is limited compared to other professions. Four, availability of other position in government sector. Five, teachers cannot commit to other family obligation. Six, lack of financial possibilities and capabilities in school compared to other professions. Seven, low financial incentives. As for the educational obstacles, some studies show lots of students do not show respect to teachers, and they may have some problems with the teachers. Second, the pressure on the teachers, they have lots of burden. Three, the teacher applies lots of efforts compared to other professions. Four, lack of legislations that protect the teacher. Five, difficulty in following up the achievements of the teacher. Six, changes in the roles of the teachers on a continuous basis. Seven, lots of conflicts and problem between teachers and management in schools. Eight, the educational environment and the surrounding are not attractive and are not encouraging teachers at work. And nine, management at school and parents of teachers do not appreciate the work of the teacher. And 10, some students do not have enough respect and do have some negative opinions towards teaching position. 11, lots of students do not accept the position of teachers as they consider it a low position. The method applied in this study was analytical descriptive analysis to describe the socio-economical obstacles. And we have selected samples for the study, the tools of the research. I prepared the questionnaire for the student and the questionnaire for the teachers. Both questionnaires were prepared taking into account the obstacles I talked about earlier. The statistics, we used the SBS tool. Suggestion for tackling the disinclination toward the position of teachers. In my view, given what we see from reality and from the obstacles we talked about, we need a strategic plan that would take about 10 or more years, and in which the Ministry of Education will work on emiratization of the position of teachers, and it will grow increasingly year after year, and I would give some explanation. First, we should schedule the salaries of UAE teachers in a way that would be convenient with the living, with the quality of life in the country. Second, setting a plan in which the Ministry of Education would be a key player in addition to media and cultural organization in society, and they must work together to get back the good status of teachers in society. It's question of society, it's about culture and the view we have toward the teacher. So we must change that perception of the teacher in society. Number three, set up an ambitious plan of promotion for teachers, and it should be linked with awarding incentives. Number four, organize annual meeting with the students to give them some information and insights about the status, the current status of the teachers within the new strategic plan for the teachers. Number five, to offer bonuses for students to join education college and obtain certificates in education, in teaching position. So they need support from government. Number six, set up ambitious plan for pension and medical coverage in a way that would guarantee financial and psychological stability for the teacher. Number seven, building a strategic partnership between the Ministry of Education and local and international universities in a way that would enable us to have highly qualified teachers. Number eight, set up a plan supervised by the educational zone in a way that would alleviate the burden on the teachers and allow him to work in the best way possible. And number nine, devise a system for sending teachers to learn in other countries. And number 10, set up a plan of incentive that would support teachers in schools. Number 11, set up a plan of pension that would be competitive to other professions in the country. Number 12, set up legislations that would protect the teacher. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
نشكر الدكتور أحمد الصغير على هذا العرض.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmad Sarir, for your presentation. And I remember everybody would have lots of thoughts when we talk about Emiratization of teaching. This reminds me of Mission Impossible. So it seems Emiratization of teaching position is Mission Impossible. But thank you for what you said about attracting local teachers and retaining the teachers, the current teachers. And as we had discussed yesterday, this was thinking outside of the box. We want to have local teachers, but sometimes we forget that those in the field are human beings. They eat and they ink and they grow up, they get old. We forget that in the next 5 years, we forget those who join. Maybe they will retire after 15 years, and then we will face a real problem. We hope that we will not face this problem. We are still optimistic, but I think all of us were thinking after your presentation. The presentation will be of my colleague Dr. Ali Ibrahim. It's about the new teachers in the UAE, learning needs, supervisory approaches and mentoring. Dr. Ali Ibrahim is an associate professor at the College of Education. He holds a PhD in social and comparative analysis in education and a master in international development education from the University of Pittsburgh in United States. He worked at Carnegie Mellon University, and he worked as consultant for Michigan State University, and he co-directed the Institute for International Studies in Education at the University of Pittsburgh for 1 year, and participated in development project of the institute. He lectured at the University of Zagazig in Egypt and the University of Sultan Qaboos in Oman. When he was in Egypt, he was a consultant for the USAID Egypt Education Reform. It's a long biography. So let us listen to the presentation of Dr. Ali Ibrahim. It's called New Teachers in the UAE. In the name of
the Center for Strategic Studies and Research for inviting me to be here with you, presenting on this important theme. And actually, I'm in an awkward situation because my papers, Dr. Al-Ka'bi said it's a paper, but it's a combination of 3 papers actually. And I'm in an awkward situation because the papers were published in journals in the US and Britain, and they are written in English, but I see the audience mostly Arabic native speakers, so I got permission of Dr. Al-Ka'bi to use Arabic as well as English if this is the best way to reach the audience. When they contacted me to present on this issue, I said, wow, I have a paper on mentoring of new teachers. I'd like to present on this. But then I said, oh, I have a paper on supervising prospective teachers. And I have a paper on the needs of new teachers, the learning needs of teachers. So I thought I should present on the 3 research papers. And I'm using Arabic because I don't want to just present and go, but I'd like to leave you with some ideas. So here, forgive me because I'm not a good speaker of Arabic also, standard Arabic I mean. So if I use colloquial Arabic, forgive me, okay, sometimes. So, المدرسون الجدد, it's not the best translation. I apologize for the translators because maybe they prepared to use English to Arabic, now they will switch to Arabic to English. So, okay, المعلمون وليست المدرسين, but anyhow. So, المعلمين الجدد في الإمارات العربية المتحدة في دولة الإمارات احتياجاتهم للتعلم.
New teachers in UAE learning needs supervisory approach and mentoring. I am trying to translate the title of the needs of learning. Either for new teachers in the UAE, when the new graduates in College of Education, if they need something, it is those who are learning. They need us to help them in the first years. Our study was, what do we need? The new teachers. The study starts from the first years. The teacher in the first year, he would start teaching, and this is a stage of learning. He is not a fully fledged teacher. we still keep in mind that after the teacher graduates, he cannot immediately jump in and start teaching. He still needs to learn. He is in the field. He needs professional development. So we should understand that this is a learning process. If we judge this phase as being wrong for preparing the teacher, that's wrong, because the teacher needs to develop himself. All studies agree that duty teachers suffer reality shock because they do two things: to teach and to learn how to teach. If we do not provide teachers with support, they can develop survival mentalities. They think about, let me finish the first term, the first year, and they also resist change. They do not accept change. They are comfortable with whatever they have. So if we mentor them in the first years, that should be based on understanding their needs. This begs the question, what are the learning needs of the new teachers in United Arab Emirates? I'm not going to go deep into the methodological aspect. I have a copy of the paper if anybody is interested in it.
I want to leave you with some ideas and lessons. Okay.
I divided the needs in two categories: teaching related needs and non-teaching related needs.
Using a survey and also these three studies actually
These three studies are qualitative and quantitative studies. I spoke to students, I interviewed the teachers. If we look at the needs, we'll find that they need to learn the needs of the students. They need to prepare plans. They need to maintain the classroom discipline and disciplined students, how to create an attractive learning environment and motivate students, and how to use different teaching strategies which would be convenient to the level of the students who graduated from education college, and policymakers like Dr. Banias and others, Dr. Al-Kabi, other policymakers, they have to think about it. What about the non-teaching related aspects or needs? So they need to learn how to manage their time effectively. We do not want them to feel lost. They need to understand the duties and the responsibilities. They feel they have either to drown or swim. So they need to understand their rights as teachers. Sometimes they don't even know the policy of the school.
They are well prepared. No, they are not.
So we need to provide them with some help. What is the cause of these needs? I will focus on lack of mentoring, starting from the first to the third year of the teaching. Some schools have what is called the buddy system. It's when the principal has new teachers and would provide that new teachers with another teacher who would give him some support, but this is not something formal. I will give you an example of one of the students. it was called Maryam. She said teachers are left to sink or swim and are given a full load that is overwhelming them. There are lots of causes, but I want to move to something very interesting. What about prospective teachers, those who will be teachers in the field? I wanted to have a study on the supervision of the student teachers. They will have cooperating teacher and they will have trainee teachers. So I tried to explore the relationship between them. I bought 3 categories: the trainees, the professors from university, and the cooperating teachers. I based that on a theory of supervision. You supervise them directly. You tell them 1, 2, 3, and they apply. It can be directive. It can be collaborative. I asked them these questions. What is the best style for the student teachers? What is the supervisory style used by cooperating teachers? What is the style used by university supervisor? These are the findings. It is very concise. Few teachers prefer collaboration. They do not want control. They want someone to discuss with them. That's something we expected. They feel that the cooperating teachers is 50% cooperative and allow them the non-directive information.
This is very interesting. Forgive me, faculty members. They perceive that university supervisors are directive control. Use directive control.
Directive control is kind of absolute control. Give them clear instructions.
Anyway, the self-perception by cooperating teachers.
Self-perception by cooperating teacher. When I asked cooperating teachers what style do you use, they said we are cooperating with them, and this go in line with what the trainee said. What about the university supervisor? When I asked them, they said we mostly use direct control and direct information. Control is you give them a list of things to do, while information is I give them options. So they tell them you have different options and we will discuss them. But there is a gap between what the teacher wants and what faculty members provide. I'm sorry if this hurt anybody, but this is scientific research. What does this mean for new teachers, mentor, subject coordinator, and even school principal? Please cooperate more with the new teachers and prospective teachers other than being directors.
This is the third research paper. It talks directly into the issue of mentoring.
This paper is about mentoring in the first years when the teachers join in the teaching position. The mentoring styles are abundant. I tried to set up a scheme for the UAE. What is beneficial for the UAE as a mentoring system for the new teachers? I follow a Delphi system. I would not go into those details.
Called me and they have some interview.
And the newspaper, the National, called me and interviewed me about that. So what is mentoring? It's not mentoring is not a body system. It's a formal relationship between experienced teachers and the new teachers, with a view to polish the skills of the new teachers and help him with his own personality. We use induction, we use mentoring to train this teacher. Mentoring is between two persons, but induction goes beyond. Induction trains the mentors and evaluate the program in general. The benefits, if my colleagues at the panel talked about the term is over, but if we provide them with mentoring, we will raise the retention rate. They would feel that we are there to help them. They would develop their teaching skills very fast, and they will be very satisfied, and that would help to reduce their isolation. The benefits are not for the mentee, not for the new teachers, but also for the mentors. The mentor would have skills, would have insights, and he would learn from the mentee. Any mentoring program for the new teachers, all teachers must participate. This is a learning stage that he must follow.
It's a multi-year time frame.
It's a multi-year time frame. It's not 1 or 2 months. It must be more than 1 year. Like 3 years. When I asked them here in the UAE, they said 1 year. We must bring qualified mentors to work with the mentees, and not all experienced teachers can become mentors. We have to select them very carefully. We must have a matching between the mentor and the menteen. We cannot have a mentor in science to do menteen for somebody who studies geography or who teaches geography. There must be a match. We should reduce teaching loads. We cannot give a beginning teacher 30 hours and ask him to start 30 hours of work. We should know that we are trying to create new teachers. So we give them the chance, the opportunity to talk with each other and to plan and think about what they do. And we should have a final assessment. We should select, for the selection of mentor, they should be experts and have high achievement and communicate effectively, and must be committed. They must be all models, and they must have a passion for training to the next generation of teachers. They must be teaching in the same certification area and grade level. They must be flexible, tolerant, committed, good listener, not judgmental, realistic, supportive, and professional. Those are all qualities of mentors. And we should provide the mentor with the mentor training. We should train the mentors before sending them to teach the new teachers. They should know how to identify the needs and strategies of the new teachers. They should utilize peer coaching, communication, observation, problem solving, and feedback. And this is done through mentor academics. this could be in the form of evening classes. We should know that mentoring is a differentiated work. It means he will not be using the same style with all the teachers. So he should have a different mentoring style on an individual basis. The scheme for this study after this long introduction. Who needs induction and for how long? The study says 4.86. This is very high. The study says that all recently employed teachers need support with teaching. These are figures. When we were talking about, we said first from 1 to 3 years, but they told us they need only 1 year. But what about those who fail in the program? What if we helped him in 1 year? If we can in this case we'll give him a maximum of a second year. We can give him a chance until he can make it. All these details are in my paper if you want to look at it later. The selection was suitable to the needs, and we should. As I know that there was a system where the supervisor would go from one school to another, but the mentor should stay at the same school as the mentee, because the mentee needs him. If there is any problem, the mentor would be there. The matching, we talked about it. They need to have intensive training. They have reduced teaching loads. Assessment of novice teachers. We should evaluate the program itself. We should have constructive assessment. We should have an assessment done by an external evaluator, someone from outside. This is a very good point to give the chance to novice teachers to evaluate the mentors, because in the study this is something about relations of power. So they should not feel that they cannot say anything about the mentor. We should give them a chance at the end to give us some feedback, and they can even change the mentor if they don't like him.
Very important, the mentor should not force the novice to follow a specific teaching approach.
We start with the mentee. We are not imposing a style of teaching on him. There must be a network among novice teachers where they learn from each other and exchange experiences. This licensing of teaching is very important. We hear a lot about accredited teachers. When we ask them about this mentoring program, would you sit in the exam? They said no, we already passed the mentoring, so they don't want to go into exams.
And it should be guided, of course, the program itself, it should be guided by the national teaching standards in the UAE. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Ibrahim, for your insightful presentation. And thank you for delivering his presentation in Arabic. He speaks in Arabic, I know that, but it's the first time since 2000, the year 2000, that he delivered his presentation in Arabic. He talked about mentoring. I was honored to be director at the University of UAE for 3 years. In fact, even if the new teacher is ready to teach when he joins the school might even change its trends, its policies of teaching. This is why mentoring system is paramount. We may have some discussion about that later. Just to I noticed that everybody is committed to the time allotted to him. You know that we started a bit late, but we are not late with the presentations. The fourth presentation and the last presentation for this session is about the impact of employment policies on the quality of teachers, and it's a paper of Dr. Natasha Ij, Executive Director of Sheikh Saud bin Saqr Al-Qasimi Foundation for Policy Research, United Arab Emirates. It will be delivered by Ms. Suha Shami. But let me introduce Dr. Natasha. She is the Executive Director of the Sheikh Saud bin Saqr Al-Qasimi Foundation for Policy Research. Before that, she was the acting director of research at the Dubai School of Government. She has many publications, such as a book entitled Education and the Reverse Gender Divide in the Gulf States. So we welcome now Ms. Suha, who will deliver the paper of on behalf of Dr. Natasha Ij.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. First of all, let me apologize, as I will be speaking in English. The presentation was prepared in English by Dr. Natasha, who unfortunately was unable to make it today. So I will be speaking on her behalf. And my name is Suha Shami, and I am a research associate at the Sheikh Saud bin Saqr Al-Qasimi Foundation for Policy Research, based in Ras Al Khaimah in the UAE. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking everyone here for staying, and also for Dr. Jamal and the ECSSR for inviting the foundation to speak on such important issues. It was a very good pleasure to hear a lot of the speakers from today and from yesterday discussing the challenges in developing high-quality teachers and also in the education sector overall. So for Dr. Rij's contribution, I will be talking briefly about the impact of employment policies on the education sector in the GCC and on teacher quality. And I'll be basing this presentation on Dr. Rij's research on school quality, as well as some more recent research on the teachers in the GCC. Okay, so just to look at where we'll go today, I'll start off by talking about what we mean by teacher quality. And then I will proceed on to a discussion of the teaching profession in the GCC and how it came about. And then I'll discuss some of the employment policies in national teachers and on expatriate teachers. And then look into some of the implications and challenges and some ways to think forward. All right, so if I asked you, how would you define teacher quality? What's the first thing that comes to mind? I think for some of us, I think Dr. Kirk has mentioned we look at student attainment in some cases, so student test scores. If a student is doing well, we might perceive the teacher as being a good teacher. But then there's also the missing factor there is that a teacher might pay attention to the high achievers in the classroom and disregard or neglect those who have learning disabilities or who might not score high on tests. And then others might consider things like the lifetime achievements of the students. So where do these students end up? Do they end up as CEOs? Do they end up as doctors, lawyers? But then again, something is missing in that, and that is, we disregard in that case some mothers who might be essential members of the community but hold less workforce-related jobs or positions. And then others might determine teacher quality as perhaps how happy the students are, how satisfied they are with the teacher. But a student might be particularly, enthused by a teacher who doesn't push them to do to do their best and put in all the effort that they can. And then also there's some more traditional measures that we think about when we consider teacher quality, and those are things like teacher experience, years of qualifications or educational qualifications. But that also fails to capture things like teacher pedagogy or teacher-student rapport in the classroom, and those are things that are very subjective and can be seen through observations in the classroom. And then finally, other people might define as teacher quality by parent satisfaction. How satisfied are the parents with the teacher? But again, there's some missing pieces there. So the short answer to the question, what is teacher quality, is that in a sense, it's all of the above. It's a combination of all of these terms. And so how does this connect to employment policies? Well, if we think as all of these things as defining factors for what a high-quality teacher should look like, then we need to ensure that we have the necessary policies in place to attract and retain teachers that fall within this definition of teacher quality. So that is, we need well-trained, well-experienced, committed people who care not only about their students' outcomes, but also about where they end up and how they end up caring for the society that they live in. So as the picture here in the slide shows, it says classroom culture is the shadow of the teacher, meaning that the classroom is ultimately a reflection of the teacher. So now let's consider the teaching profession in the GCC and how it came about. So if we examine the history of the teaching profession, we see that with the expansion of education following the discovery of oil in the GCC, the earliest teachers came from neighboring Arab countries, and in particular from Egypt. These teachers were critical to the creation of education systems within the GCC that we see today. And back in the day, they actually held a high status within the society, and they were well-respected members of society. And then as universities were built and colleges of education were established, we saw that many national women entered the teaching profession to such a degree that today in Ministry of Education schools, we see an approximate percentage of about 80% national female teachers in girls' schools, which is a very high percentage. And I think Dr. Saeed had mentioned earlier, perhaps it's decreasing. So that's a very interesting fact as well. But then, however, due to the lack of availability of other options for males in particular, things like the military, other public sector jobs, there was far less success in attracting males into the profession than there was for females. And this is a challenge that remains until today. Some scholars argue that when a profession becomes feminized and dominated by women, there is less value placed on that profession. And that is, there's lower salaries and there's lower respect for those positions. It's a sad reality, and it does, some scholars have found similar things in Western countries, so it's not only in the UAE. And it's a crisis in education. So this brings me to my next point around the status of education and teachers in the UAE in particular. So if we look at some of the statistics here, we can see that for nationals, there are overwhelmingly more Emirati females than Emirati males enrolled in the system, or in the system, teaching in the system. And there's also more expatriate males as opposed to Emirati males working as teachers. And that's consistent with what Dr. Al-Saghir had said earlier. And then the males who do end up in the education sector, the Emirati males, they end up working in administrative roles, that is principals, deputies, education zone staff, or social workers. But in some boys' schools, there's not even a single Emirati male teacher in the school. So we have an issue here where we have a shortage of Emirati male teachers, and because of this shortage, we have no role models for the boys to become teachers. And the cycle perpetuates, and the low status of teachers continues. And so now boys, Emirati boys, associate teaching with something that a foreigner does. And they don't associate it with serving your country. And it is something that should be considered as serving your country. It should be on the same footing as working in the army or in the police. Okay, so now we'll look at some of the employment policies that contribute to this. I apologize for the slides. I think there was a size change or something. So firstly, in terms of compensation of national teachers, and males in particular, they can be paid far less than those working in other public service positions. And they have, higher education and qualifications than others who work in public service jobs as well. And so for nationals, the comparatively lower salaries act as a really strong disincentive to join the teaching profession. That's the first point. Second is also the working conditions. We always hear about the teacher's workload. We always hear about, the respect that's given to teachers. And while there's good holidays and maybe shorter working days, the lack of respect to teachers also means they don't have the necessary support to stand up to parents or students in the face of conflict. And, disciplining students or requiring high standards from them then becomes a very difficult challenge for these teachers. And the fact that, parents might even just go above the teachers to the principals directly, that in itself places the teacher in a great deal of pressure and only adds to their dissatisfaction. Another disparate condition is retirement. National teachers have to work longer than other public servants in order to be eligible for retirement. And admittedly, this is shorter than a lot of countries in the West, but at the same time, national Emiratis will not consider, looking to the West as a comparative standpoint. They'll consider others working in the public sector. All right, and so to illustrate some of these challenges on the ground, as part of our research examining teacher quality and teachers in the UAE, we interviewed a sample of male Emirati teachers working in Ras Al Khaimah. And we asked them why they became a teacher and what some of the challenges were in attracting boys into the teaching profession. And we can see from the three quotes, there's a third one here, but you can't see it. But we can see here that they all feel very passionately about their profession, and they see it as a critical service to the nation. But they also suffer from being a minority and with lower returns compared to other professions. And the first gentleman here is very honest about the struggle to get boys to become teachers and how that makes him feel. So, he's saying that while the UAE has done an excellent job of attracting Emirati women, this was in another excerpt, it can't be seen as a second-rate profession. And something, it can't be seen as something that a foreigner does. It has to be on equal footing with serving in the military. So I'll just read the first quote here to you. It says, although I'm not the only local teacher in my school among Ras Al Khaimah educators, we represent a small fraction of the teaching force. And this makes me feel sad and distressed. I encourage young Emiratis to choose the teaching profession, but it's a daunting line of work with poor returns compared to other professions. So this overall kind of depicts male teachers' views on the situation, but it's also important to consider the expatriates' views on this as well. So if we turn to the expatriate teacher, who is, as we know, a very essential part of the operation of boys' schools. I think also Dr. Saghir had mentioned that approximately 90% of male teachers are actually expatriates in boys' government schools. And we see that they face very similar challenges to those of their Emirati counterparts. But before going into the challenges, we'll try and understand why they came to the UAE in the first place. So as shown in the figure here, we surveyed expatriate teachers as part of a study on Arab migrant teachers in the GCC, and the majority said that they came for, in order to get better pay or to support their families. And so I guess in both sense, it's the financial returns aspect. That was their biggest motivation, and it's not surprising. They also reported that in addition to just compensation, they anticipated and were looking forward to having opportunities for professional development. So that was very interesting. And then a few had also suggested that they were pushed out of their countries due to political instability, limited job opportunities, and such. And then finally, a few teachers came as adventure seekers, and that means they came to the UAE in search of life change or in search of something different. So even though we've just mentioned that the primary reason that these expatriate teachers come is because of the salaries, and they actually earn more here relative to in their home countries, this is offset by the higher cost of living in the UAE. And so in addition to just that, there's also the fact that they're paid significantly less than their Emirati counterparts for doing the same job and typically with a few more years of experience. And this poses a very negative impact on teacher morale. However, this is understandably difficult to change at the ministry level. So at the school level, some schools have experimented with things like reward systems, where nationals and expatriates can be rewarded equally with things like teaching awards or even reduced administrative responsibilities, because we all know how much teachers enjoy the administrative responsibilities of their portfolios. And so expatriate teachers, in addition to just compensation, also face differences in access to professional development. And in order to ensure that we address both boys' schools and girls' schools equally, we have to make sure that these expatriates are getting the same level of professional development as the mostly Emirati teachers in the girls' schools, in order to benefit boys and girls equally. All right. And in addition to the low compensation and lack of professional development opportunities, they also face a more serious problem of the low status and lack of respect, very similar to that's being faced by Emirati males as well. So schools and education systems need to ensure that they show the right support for teachers and not undermine them. So what are some of the implications of this for the current state of affairs? So as we've seen, there's a common thread that affects both expatriate teachers and national teachers alike. And firstly, it's the issue of the low status of the profession. And the low status also leads to lack of respect, and this lack of respect then manifests itself in poorly motivated teachers who, then it results in boring classes, high absenteeism, poorly disciplined students, a disinterest from the teacher to see their students succeed, and also a disinterest in the students being engaged in the class. And then also a general lack of care for the students. And when the students feel like they're uncared for by the teacher, and when they see that society doesn't value teachers, they see no point to learning, and at the same time they disregard education and they disregard their teachers, and they become disengaged and uninterested. And when Emirati boys see that there's very few Emirati teachers and the ones who are in the system are very discouraged, they have no reason to enter the teaching profession, and so the cycle continues. So what are some ways forward? What can we do? First, it's important for us to ensure the consistency of employment policies at all levels, across both nationality and gender. Emirati teachers with the same qualifications as expatriate teachers should be rewarded equally, even if it's not financially, at least reward systems within the schools that can help build the same levels of teacher motivation in boys' schools as in girls' schools. Second, by ensuring the consistency of employment policies and promoting the teaching profession to Emirati males, we can help raise the status of teachers across the UAE in general. And in doing so, we can start with small changes and move to big ones. So in Ras Al Khaimah, for example, we celebrated the success of Emirati male teachers within Ras Al Khaimah during UAE National Day. So we made them feel like they're a valuable part of their community and a valuable part of their country, and they're giving back to their country by teaching. And then we also shared this with our colleagues within the education circles. And the next step could be to use some of our research findings to propose policy changes and maybe even salary improvements for teachers that are in line with those of other public servants. And finally, and most importantly, it's the role of education policymakers as well as administrators to ensure that teachers feel accountable to students, schools, and the community as a whole. So, to conclude, Dr. Ridge has found this very interesting quote that kind of sums up all of this research. And it says, "In a completely rational society, the best of us would be teachers, and the rest of us would have to settle for something less." So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
نشكر السادة سهى والتي قدمت ورقة.
Thank you, Ms. Suha, who delivered the paper on behalf of Dr. Natasha. Now we will open the floor for discussion, and since we do not have enough time, we'll take 3 questions only. Please introduce yourself and tell us to whom you address your question, and please be concise. I am Zakariya Ahmadi. I am educational consultant. Just one point I want to mention. It was in the end of the paper.
Teacher philosophy. It is a daunting line of work compared to other professions.
This point
كل ما سيحدث لن يحقق
whatever will happen will not achieve the hopes, because the gap between what is given to the teachers and what is given in other professions is widening. Whatever you increase, no matter how many,
مرتب أفضل
no matter how much you increase the salary of the teachers, there will always be a gap.
التي أشير إليها في الآخر low status.
This and the last thing in the paper was low status, lack of commitment and motivation, learning devalued, poor achievement by boys. In fact,
يكون فيها الحل
the solution would be what the chair of the panel had said when he said we need creative solutions. I would suggest to have
واجب وطني.
I suggest that education would be like military service. It would be compulsory.
هو الوحيد الذي يمكن
I think this is the only solution. We agree with you. With also Ms. Suha called it national service. Teaching should be a national service. This could be one of the creative solutions. We should regard teaching as a national service. Thank you. I don't know if Ms. Suha has any comment on that.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. I completely agree with you, and I thank you very much for bringing the point up. And I think it's an important point. And you know, we can think about ways where we could potentially integrate a teaching component within the national service, or within things that we consider to be more with higher salaries and higher respect within the community. So thank you very much for bringing
شكرا أستاذة سهى، تفضل. ويرجع لك المايك دكتور قاسم.
دكتور غازي أديب.
I am Dr. Razi Adib from the Ministry of Education from Jordan. My question is for Dr. Ahmed Souri. What are the roles and the responsibilities of government policies in disinclination toward teaching position? My second remark is to the organizers of the conference. When you present something in a conference, it should be something that was not published in another publication, but your presentation was already published.
وهي السياسات الحكومية
My question was, what are the government policies to tackle disinclination toward the teaching position? What does the government want to do? Thank you for your question. Of course, the question of disinclination towards the teaching position is something that concerns the whole Arab world, not only the UAE. And I think this is a question of community culture. The government with the community organization should work together to change the perception of society. All of us here in the classroom talk about education. All of us distance ourselves or distance our children from joining the profession of teachers. If you can tell me anyone of us who would encourage his children to become teachers, this is a question of culture. And in my suggestions, I said that governments, in collaboration with different organization, should work to change the perception of society, and to do that you should work on increasing the salaries of teachers and give them the right status that they deserve. But government alone cannot do that if the culture of society remains the same. If I ask you, would you encourage your children, or did you encourage your children and to become teachers in the future. I think the majority of us here in the classroom do not encourage the children to become teachers, because we all know that this is a difficult position and the return from this profession is low. So we need to change the perception of society with the work of government on improving the financial situation of teachers. I heard yesterday someone saying that the financial situation is not important, but I disagree. It is important, because the teachers, the graduates would look for other positions instead of joining a position of teacher, which is very difficult and very challenging, even with low salaries. So the whole society needs to change its culture. I think yesterday there was a paper about the Finnish experience, and it was clear that not only with government policies that we can reform teaching, but the Finnish experience is outstanding. It's the community culture that respects and values education in general, and the teacher as well. There is a comment from Dr. Ibrahim why you participated with the presentation that was already published. I do not see any problem with making a presentation from publication from something that was already published. I do not see any problem in that. It was published in a magazine. Did you read those research? I am introducing my presentation here to those who may not have looked at it, unlike you. Question from the ladies. I am Miss Munir Abdelaziz. I'm expert in teaching the teachers. Thank you for all your presentations, and I would like to thank in particular Dr. Ahmed Hussein Al-Sohair for his suggestion to tackle the disinclination toward the profession of teacher, which gave us an idea about the role and the value of the teacher. I hope that the policy makers would take into consideration your suggestion. What Dr. Ali Ibrahim said about the novice teacher, I think that before the novice teacher should take training course, and I suggest that students who choose to become teachers, they must undergo interviews to determine how excited he is about the profession of teacher. Allow me to answer or to comment on what you said. You made a good remark. At the College of Education, we have 4 or 5 stages before the graduate student becomes teacher. First, we have interviews, then we have exams that we call BS. It's called basic skills. The other thing is we have a course. It's called exploration of education. The students can determine if he wants to become teachers or not. But after he takes this course and he learns about the theories of teaching, this is one course only, and maybe after he learns in this course he may change his mind. And we take the last question from Dr. Qasim. You're loud enough, you don't need a microphone. I am Qasim from College of Education, United Arab Emirates University. I need 2 minutes, no, 30 seconds, please. I want to sum up what was said, and then I would move to recommendations. Dr. Ahmed, in your presentation, when you gave us the statistics about the disinclination toward the teaching position. When we come to some specialties, especially at high school, we'd have the figure of 0. Those are awful figures, frightening figures. Knowing that in our strategic plan for United Arab Emirates for the year 2020, we want to be among the leading 15 countries in sciences, and our colleague yesterday, Mahar, had mentioned that. And to reach that level, we need lots of efforts. Today, the teacher in scientific subjects, the Emirati teachers do not exist. Joining the College of Education in the specialties of sciences does not exist. There are no programs that qualify teachers, but thanks to the University of Emirates, we are going to launch programs this year according to the best practices to tackle this problem. The other issue is the issue of induction. We want this to be among the recommendation, and as a College of Education, 3 years ago we introduced an induction plan to empower teachers before they join the teaching position. But now I think that on behalf of all of you, I would like to thank Dr. Amal Al-Qubaisi. Yesterday she mentioned the role of United Arab Emirates University, and we need to communicate with them. The induction period should be as follows. This teacher will get support all over the year. We can guarantee him success after we select mentoring and expert teachers with him. There will be less load on him. Based on that, I hope that other universities would follow suit. And after that year, we want the teacher to get a master's in education, as is the case with Finnish universities. And I don't think it's it's question of financial aspects. It's beyond that, because even the salaries of Emirati teachers are not low. We do hope that those salaries increase and double, not only for Emirati teachers, but for all teachers in the country. The quote of Miss Suha, which said when the teacher said, "I am proud to be one of the only Emiratis in the school." I am talking here about a strategic dimension and the cultural dimension. We should take a decision. We should start from next year, and each Emirati school, we should have an Emirati male teacher inside the school. So he would set a role model for the students, and we can build up the national loyalty. Thank you for your remark. We apologize to the colleague who wants to ask a question, because we have no more time, but I would like to thank all of you, and from the right side I would like to thank Dr. Daniel Kirk, Program Chair at the Research Center of Excellence, and Dr. Ahmed Hussein Al-Saghir, Associate Professor of Education at the University of Sharjah in the UAE, and Dr. Ali Ibrahim, Associate Professor of Education at UAE University in the UAE, and would like to thank Ms. Suha Shami, who spoke on behalf of Dr. Natasha Eid, Executive Director of Sheikh Saud bin Saka Al Qasimi Foundation for Policy Research in the UAE. And thanks to all of you, the audience, thank you for attending this session, and we hope you success in the next sessions. Thank you.